So there I was minding my own business, and Blizzard drops this teaser on social media. And I was like, you know what? This is spicy. We have to talk about this. We have a video to make. All right, I'm going to lead in with this, with the fact that I am, in fact, not a game designer, surprisingly, and I am usually incredibly wrong. But that's part of the fun, right? Is we look at these teasers and we're like, this might happen. And then when the actual thing comes out, you're like, this is why I'm not a game designer. But let's talk about this. So as usual, we're going to start on our buff side. We're starting with the Diremuck Forager. It's our tier 3 right now. It's a 4/3, and it's a start of combat effect that gives a Murloc in your hand +2/+2, then summon it for this combat only. So whenever this came out, it was pretty recent. It was like almost like, what's the purpose of Bassgill? And then all of a sudden you have a few extra Murloc in your hand and it pulls something instead of the Bream, and you're like, that's the purpose of the Bassgill. But I mean, it's still very, very good. It's still very relevant. It opens another line for Murloc, and Murloc are already fantastic. So I'm a little worried about this buff, but let's think about what this could possibly be. Okay, here's my official prediction. I think it's going to turn into a +2/+3. That's such a teeny tiny buff, but like, I feel like Murloc are so good. Maybe that's just me, but I'm pretty sure Murloc are just really fantastic. They have a lot of answers right now. There's a lot of variation of gameplay. They're one of my favorite minion types, which tells me that there's a whole lot going on for them, because I like playing very like diverse, versatile, meme-tastic boards, but like Murloc are just good. So I think it's going to be like a +2/+3. I think it's going to be the smallest buff ever. I don't think anything else is changing. Official answer. Give a Murloc in your hand +2/+3. Okay, we're officially moving on to the pirate that I can never remember the name of. This is Gunpowder Courier. This is a tier 3 2/4. After you spend 5 gold, give your pirates +1 attack. I think I never remember this pirate because I don't generally like just attack buffs. If I can buff just one thing, I'd prefer to buff health. That being said, I don't like playing Pyramid, but that's besides the point. Not a huge fan of this pirate, but it's a really good one. It's a great pirate. 10 out of 10. You should play this pirate. I just don't like to for some reason. But it's getting a buff here. I think this pirate itself is going to have more health. I think it's this whole like 4 health thing for the pirates. Like everything is 4 health and below pretty much, right? I can't remember what Peggy's at right now. What is Peggy at right now? You know, I'm just going to look at pirates real quick. Yeah, everything is 4 health and below except for the anchor. Whoa, pirates have no health. Okay. I think that this minion is going to get a small buff. I think it's going to get a health buff. I think it's going to be a 2. I think it's going to be a 2/5. That would actually be so huge though, because literally 4 is where the health ends for everything. But there's like the Lovesick Balladist. I mean, the Audacious Anchor that that attack the enemy across from it situation has 13, but that's the only one with like a slightly larger amount of health. Gunpowder Courier. 2/5 stats. Done. Shipped. Next, we have our tier 5 Tavern Tempest. This is the elemental with the battle cry of giving you another elemental. I love that it's a battle cry, and I love that it's... I just really like this minion. I don't... anything with economy, big fan. I think that this is going to go to tier 4, actually. I changed my prediction. I was initially going to give it a stat line buff. I think that's wrong. I think it's going to be a tier 4 Tavern Tempest. It totally is. Tier 4 Tavern Tempest. Because, like, really, we have Genie. We have 2 things on tier 5 right now that provide us sustenance as an elemental player. So I'm going to say Tavern Tempest is going to 4. And maybe a stat line reduction as well. Maybe like a 3/3 on tier 4. Done. Oh, Aggem. Also, I've been told that I've been saying Aggem wrong this whole time, but I think that I am just at peace with how I say Aggem. Let me know if I'm like really, if all of you say, Sway, that's not how you say Aggem, I'll maybe change it, maybe. But we have Aggem, who is a tier 5, 3/6, has been around for a really long time, left, came back. Still doesn't see a whole lot of play because he's not super viable. As it's after a blood gem is played on this, give a friendly minion of each type +1/+1. He's a menagerie support. However, Menagerie Quilboar are a thing to an extent, but like you can't really build a comp off of Aggem. Like tripling into Aggem feels really bad. That being said, I feel like it wouldn't feel so bad if a friendly minion of each type got +2/+2. I'm still kind of on the fence about that because in the game right now, we can buff blood gems. So like, why would you want to play a blood gem on Aggem to buff theoretically like 2 or 3 minions? And instead, you could just play those blood gems on those minions and get way more stats because your blood gems are like +20/+20. That's a really outlandish scenario, but like, you know what I mean? Like you get slightly more stats just by playing the gem itself on the minion. I think it's going to be +2/+2 to the friendly minions. Feels very light fangy, but also there's a lot of generation. +2/+2, Aggem. You can do it. I believe in you. Captain Flat Tusk is a tier 6, came out when Quillbore came out and then left and is now back again. This is every 4 gold you spend, you get a blood gem. So this is your generation sometimes, but like also on tier 6, usually you're looking for Charlie or Bristlebach because Bristlebach is playing that kind of Deflecto-esque Tough Tusk rebuffing, reshielding comp, or you're playing like just Drakari, Charlga, like big, massive board, end of turn. Flat Tusk doesn't really fit in with either of those. But Flat Tusk could be a really great companion to Aggem. I'm thinking one of 2 things is going to happen here, and I know I have to pick. I'm picking because I cannot just provide all of the scenarios and just say it's going to be one of these because that's not how speculation video works. But it's either going to be that Flat Tusk moves down to tier 5 to be alongside Aggem and they can be besties, or Flat Tusk is every 3 gold. But I feel like that's not enough of a buff. I think I'm buffing Flat Tusk to the moon here, but I think it's going to tier 5. Yeah, to the moon. That's not a good situation for anyone unless you're Flat Tusk. I'm sticking to it though. Flat Tusk, tier 5. And now we have Rock, who is the no longer infinite without the gusty, but very, very viable end of an elemental game. And really, you can just find 2 rocks and stagger them, one being on attack, one being on health, and then just cycle and go, and not have any buffs on your elementals already and build a whole elemental board. The way that Rock works is not very elemental centric. It is in the way that you have to play elementals to get the buffs, but there are so many elementals that provide you extra ones like Tavern Tempest, Celemental, Genie. So you don't really have to have a full elemental board to get benefits from a Rock. You can have almost like a menagerie board that gets buffed by 2 rocks or just 1. I feel like the +2 is not a bad thing. I feel like that's not going to change. A stat line change could be better, like a 6/6. Rock becomes a 6/6 instead of a 4/4. I could also see almost like a Fellbat treatment where it went from all your demons get to consume to your other demons get to consume back to all. So like maybe in the way that Rock also gets to start buffing itself. I think it's going to get a stat line buff. I think it's going to be small little baby buff. It's going to turn into a +6/+6. Final answer. Okay. The part that I'm most excited about, it's the nerfs. Guess what the first minion that's getting nerfed is? Banana Slamma. If you have ever spent any time on my Twitch channel, you know, I can get, I wouldn't say frustrated. Banana Slamma. Yeah. We don't have the best relationship. My biggest qualm with this minion is that it stacks. Essentially having 2 normal ones, not golden ones, 2 normal ones is better than having 1 golden one. And that's where my issue lies. I don't think that that's going to change here because that's such a big functionality change for this minion. But I love seeing it on the nerf side of things. Let's actually break down the card really quick. It's a tier 4, 2/5. After you summon a beast in combat, double its stats. The word double, it's so much. Okay, all right. Personal issues aside, let me be real for a second. Audacious Anchor is really great. It's a great answer to Banana Slamma. If your opponent is playing this comp, usually you can stop it before it starts. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes they have too many reborn. Sometimes the anchor doesn't hit the correct minion because they've made sure that the minion is positioned correctly against an anchor board. I think that was already an answer to this. So I think that maybe just moving it up a tier is going to be the nerf. I think it's going to tier 5. That's also a little bit based on the fact that Mama Bear is on the buff nerfs, the very bottom that gets both a green arrow and a red arrow. So like I'm thinking that maybe maybe we're seeing a little switcheroo here where Banana Slammer is going up to 5, because right now, technically, for all intents and purposes, it is better than Mama Bear in the way that the stat gain can get exponential as opposed to just like plus this much, plus this much. And I did say that because I am right now in this moment forgetting how much buff Mama Bear gives right now. So official speculation, Banana Slammer, tier 5. Next to Banana Slammer on the nerfs is Goldrinn. Goldrinn came back, I want to say recently, but I also have no concept of time. But Goldrinn left and now is back again, and with a much different functionality that suits the beast type better now. It for the combat impacts all beast summoned as well. So it's not just your initial beast board the way that it used to be. I call it an old school beast comp where you'd play like a Goldrinn and it would buff your Hydras. Do we remember Hydras? Do we remember Myexna? We probably shouldn't talk about Myexna, but we're talking about those boards. Goldrinn now impacts all of the summons as well. I feel pretty confident about this speculation. Right now, Goldrinn has a Death Rattle. It's a 3/3. It's a 6-drop, and it's Death Rattle. For the rest of this combat, your beasts have +3/+3. Just the way that battle cries became more relevant when you could retrigger them with the Rylak, with the Disco Dragon, with the Murky. Death Rattles became more relevant with the introduction of Chicken, which is not actually called Chicken, but I call it Chicken. The Hawkstrider Herald, I believe, is the actual name of it. So the Chicken now at the start of your combat triggers your Death Rattles. So I think that maybe Goldrinn is going to go to, because reducing the stat line wouldn't make any sense, right? Because you want it to die. You don't want it to stick around. You want it to die early so that the rest of your beasts can benefit from your Goldrinn dying. I think that the nerf on the Goldrinn will be a +2/+2 for all of their beasts summoned, because it can stack pretty excessively. Like it can get pretty crazy. And especially because it impacts for the rest of the combat. If you are comboing that with Banana Slammer, it can get pretty insane pretty quickly. So I'm going to officially say it is going to say Death Rattle for the rest of this combat. Your beasts have +2/+2. Next, we have our Bassgill. Bassgill has already seen one nerf. Bassgill went from 4 to 5 and is an 8/3 right now with the Death Rattle of summoning the highest health unit from your hand. This is undeniably one of the most important minions in Battlegrounds right now. You can basically build an entire backup board in your hand, and in the right conditions, summon most of your backup board. This is another one where I'm kind of intrigued about a stat line, but like, again, it's a Death Rattle. You want it to die. You don't want it to stick around. So I'm not confident about a stat line change. Bassgill to 6, though, feels really, really heavy. I just don't see a stat line change here. And changing the functionality and like summoning a random minion, that would be just awful. That would be bad. That would nerf it to the ground. And I can recognize that. So I'm going to say that it moves to 6, but I'm going to say that very hesitantly and knowing that I am currently nerfing this card into the ground if that were the case. But like, I don't know what else it could be. Yeah, I'm really stumped on this one. I'm going to say 6, but I'm also going to say that I'm probably wrong. And if I'm right, my jaw is going to hit this ground and I will eat this hat. I won't eat the hat. Maybe I will. Yeah, it's 6. I'm putting it on 6. We'll see. Murky, the battle cry Murloc. Oh, Murky. Murky is one of our newer Murlocs, right? And is a great combo with Young Murky. You play Young Murky, Drakari, Bran, you have a whole board. It just scales so out of control, so insane. I definitely have videos here on YouTube of that exact thing. Absolutely crazy. So it's a 6/5 Battlecry. Give a friendly Murloc +1/+1, improved by each Battlecry minion you played this game. I think that this is just going to get a massive stat line reduction. I think that it's going to be like a 2/3. It's just such a powerful card. No, JK, 2/3 is nerfed into the ground too. Because if you triple into a 6 and you get a Murky that's a 2/3, you're going to be so sad. It's a 4/3. I'm going to say that Murky is a 4/3. Last but not least, on the nerf side, we have the Motley Phalanx. This is our new all-typed minion. It's a 7/7 with a taunt and a death rattle. Give a friendly minion of each type +7/+7. I think this is going to be as simple as becoming a 6/6 and giving +6/+6. I think it's just giving too many stats right now. The death rattle aspect is really, really interesting, especially with Chicken. I think it's 6/6 +6/+6. I think that's the move for Motley Phalanx. Little nerf, but still very playable. We have finally come to our last little section here. It's the bottom part with the nerf and buff minions. We have 4 minions that are getting an arrow up and an arrow down. So this can mean a lot of things. Sometimes they move a tavern tier, but get a nice stat line change to like supplement for the Tavern tier change. Sometimes it's like a whole functionality change. So let's talk about the first one. It's Barnstormer. This is a tier 4 elemental. It's a 3/2 with the Death Rattle elementals in the Tavern have +3/+2 for the rest of the game. This is really funny because actually today's video on YouTube, the gameplay video, is going to be highlighting a Barnstormer. So it's funny that it's getting a nerf buff. I don't think this has been changed in a while. So I think changing Tavern tiers for this would be too much of a nerf. Like taking it to 5 would just be really bad. Taking it to 3 would be too good. So there's no Tavern tier change here. I think it's going to be a stat line change, and the amount of stats it gives to elementals is going to be a change. I think the change, the buff is going to come to the actual effect that it has, because we talked about this a little bit earlier of like the state that elementals are in right now. It's not a bad one. I mean, Rock has a nice end game, but like Nomi is almost next to irrelevant right now, which feels really bad to say. I love Nomi, but I think that maybe it's going to give +3/+3, and it's going to be a 2/2. So I think that its stat line is going to feel a little worse to have, especially in a greedy situation where you triple into a 4 and you have not many minions. Like, I think it's going to feel bad to have, but I think it's going to give more to elementals in the shop. So I think it's going to become a 2/2, and I think it's going to give +3/+3. That's such a small change, but I think that that's going to be pretty effective. Next on our nerf buffs is the Flourishing Frostling, which I never remember the name of also, which is another one that I, don't love to play, which is silly because it's perfectly viable. It can get some pretty crazy attack, which is, I guess, why I don't love to play it. What do I have against large attack minions? I don't even know. But so this starts out as a 0/6 and has +1 attack for each elemental you've played this game, wherever this is. This is something that has been modified. I think it got a little bit more health. So now it's getting a nerf buff. I'm aware of how crazy this sounds, but this is the best I've got. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's like fully wrong, but I definitely don't think it's right by any means. So I guess I think it's wrong. Let me backtrack. This is crazy. This is not it, but I think it goes to tier 3 and it has 8 health. I think it starts as a 0/8 and it goes to tier 3. I don't like this. I don't like that prediction, but I can't think of anything else. That one's really, it's got my noodle in a tiz. I can't figure it out. We have 2 minions left. We have the Carbonic Copy is on the nerf buff. This is a very powerful minion. Like when it's tripled, you don't need much of anything. I mean, it can get sniped for sure, but like if you just put all of your effort into making this one minion really, really good, I mean, this is a tier 4 start of combat. Summon a copy of this minion. It's a 3/3, and the golden version summons 2 dudes, not just 1 dude, but 2. There's no way that moves Tavern tiers. There's a 0% chance, unless it goes up to 5. But that would be also a big nerf. There's no way that moves. Okay, I think the buff is that it's going to be a 4/4 base stat. And then I think that the nerf is going to not allow it to summon 2 dudes. I think it still only gets to summon 1 dude. That's a significant nerf, though. But I can't imagine it changing Tavern tiers, and that's the only other thing I've got. So I think instead it summons 1 dude when it's golden instead of 2. And last but not least, we have Mama Bear. Oh, Mama Bear. Mama Bear is a tier 5 4/4, where whenever you summon a beast, give it +4/+4. We talked earlier during the nerfs about how not very relevant Mama Bear is right now, especially on tier 5. So I think the buff is going to tier 4. I think that Banana Slamma and Mama Bear are doing a whoop, and Mama Bear is going to 4. And I think it's going to give +3/+3, because going to 4 is pretty big. That's a pretty large change. So I think it gives +3/+3. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Why Sway is Not a Game Designer. But actually, though, we did some speculating. I think it went okay. I think I got maybe 60% right. I'm going to give myself a 60, which is like a D, which means I almost failed. So that's not great, but I'm going to lowball it. I'm saying 60%, but let's shoot for the moon and aim for the stars. That's backwards. I think maybe we'll do a little better than we thought, but let me know what you think. Let me know what your speculations are, what you thought of mine in the comments. And tomorrow, whenever we get our full patch notes, we will review and we will see how bad I did, because that was tough. Really, though, like my brain hurts a little bit. I'm going to take a break here, but thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you all tomorrow when we get our full patch notes. We'll talk about it. This is fun. I like this. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.